You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, it's Michelle. Okay, so today we are listening to my husband and I have a conversation about my ex-husband, about adopting our kids, about the challenges of remarriage and blending families and loving somebody that loved somebody who was addicted and all that stuff. You guys, I got to be completely honest with you. We just wrapped up the interview and I feel like I want to throw up. I feel so vulnerable and this is just not me. I am not the type of girl to air all of this stuff. Even though I talk about my life so much, this just feels really raw. So here's the deal. This might be boring. I don't know. It was fun for me, but is it boring to you? Please continue to give me your feedback. I'm telling you, I do this work for you guys. If this is not helpful, if this is not enjoyable, if you don't like this, you are not going to hurt my feelings by writing in at info@loveoveraddiction.com and letting me know. I so value the feedback. If you liked it and you want more interviews from family members or friends, let me know that too, because I have a whole bunch of ideas, but I want to make sure that they're in line with what you need and what you're looking for. So the first couple episodes we did were fun. We do laugh in this episode, but if you are in pain, if you are struggling, this might actually bring you hope. So you guys, please just take 4 seconds and write me. I read everything. My team puts all of our comments in a document, and I personally read them, and some of them I respond to, and some of them they respond to. So please, we will not ignore you, and you will hear back from us. We are a real team of people that genuinely, wholeheartedly live to serve you. So again, info@loveoveraddiction.com. I am now going to excuse myself and try to find a trash can. I'm just joking, but I do feel sort of sick to my stomach about this. Enjoy the conversation. Fast forward if you get bored. And I love you guys so much. And I'm doing this for you. I'm putting myself out there for you. So hopefully you enjoy it. But if not, that's okay too. Are you thinking you may need to leave? Have you already left but are navigating separation or divorce and doubting yourself? I know exactly where you belong. With us, in our community. We are your sisters, and we have answers, and we are ready to walk you through this. Now, at the risk of sounding like an infomercial, when you join the Love Over Addiction Stay or Go program, you get a team of women who can help you, encourage you, and carry you in the darkest and scariest of times. And if you're not a group joiner, you can still find the answers and hope you deserve inside the program. It's confidential. No childcare is required. And you can listen from your phone. Make your healing and recovery a priority. It's your turn to feel better, if they get sober or not. See, I told you, it's a little infomercially, but it's true. And you can do this. You'll be feeling better, in control, and happier before you know it. Check out the Love Over Addiction Stay or Go program at loveoveraddiction.com/stay or go. I hope to meet you soon. Hi, Brian.
Hi, sweetie.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
You're welcome.
Are you feeling mildly uncomfortable?
A little nervous, for sure.
Okay, so what are you nervous about?
I work in a business where I don't have to be spontaneous
You mean with your words?
with my words.
And this is pretty personal.
It is personal.
Would you consider yourself a private person?
Yes, for sure.
Me too. So this feels like very vulnerable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I understand. It feels vulnerable for me too. But I think as we're getting older, you just celebrated your 50th, that we need to be bolder with our feelings and a little bit more vulnerable with people. At least that's how I feel. I'm like, you know what? I think that initiates a connection with people. And I've spent most of my life kind of being very guarded. And so I know for the next half of my life, I want to be a lot more open and vulnerable. Because I think also with age, you stop caring so much what other people think.
Well, and hopefully some insight from this will help people who are going through the same thing.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, good. So I know you're nervous, and I know that this is massively uncomfortable. I said mildly, but I know it's massively. But I am really, really grateful, and there's no wrong answers here. The only wrong answer would be a lie. That would not be good.
Sure.
But you are truly one of the characteristics that I fell in love with you. One of the reasons why I fell in love with you is because you truly are one of the most honest people I've ever met in my entire life.
Thank you. Well, I try.
You do try. I see you trying. And that's a value I've seen you instill in our kids too. So I'm not worried about you lying.
Good.
Are you worried about you lying?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay, good. Okay, so here's the deal. Just pretend we're in the living room. We're having a casual conversation. Right now we're in my office and the kids are watching, what is that movie they're watching? Winter Wonderland? White Christmas?
White Christmas.
Winter Wonderland.
Right.
I don't even know if that
It
should
looks
be
like
a movie.
Winter Wonderland.
It should be a movie if it's not. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to go deep fast. How do you feel about that?
Okay, shoot.
Do you expect anything less?
No,
No.
I don't.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to talk about how you view my job. So we got all of these questions, and this is a question from Lori Ann. She wants to know how you view my job with love over addiction, since so much of my past is what I talk about. And does that affect you?
Well, it doesn't affect me in the sense of your past is your past, and I have a past, and we've been together for 10 years, and so this is, at this point, kind of way in the past. And I love you, and I'm hugely supportive, and this is something that's very, very important to you. I think the other thing is you were clear with me right at the beginning of our relationship that this is something you really, really wanted to do. So this has been a kind of endeavor of love for you for 10 years. And so from that perspective, I don't think it's something that bothers me or I have an issue with it or I worry about stuff coming up from the past because I know most of it.
Would you say is there any surprises about do I ever surprise you about my past? When you say you know most of it, I'm just wondering, do you feel like there's times where, you're like, oh, I didn't know that?
Well, I think that, and I know you've written a lot of material that's not yet published, and I think there's lots of details where I know the gist of the story, but I might not know all the details, and I may not want to know all the details.
So what you're referring to be specific, is I have a manuscript for a book, and I asked you before I am sending it to agents, publishing agents, if you wanted to read it to approve of it. And you went back and forth on that for a while. You weren't quite sure, and then I think your final answer was no, thank you.
Right. I don't need to know everything.
Why don't you? Is there a part of you that's curious, or is there a part of you what is that resistance there?
I don't know. I think it's because we have a relationship together, and I'm looking forward, not backwards. And I don't want something from the past that may have been no fault of your own, but was just a situation that you were involved in, where that somehow impacts me or gets in my head, or I'm thinking about it, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. It makes total sense.
It's kind of like watching the evening news, right? Sometimes you just see too much and you wish you hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that wasn't yours, but you were married to somebody that was very much struggling. And so there's lots of details, and I have a very clear sense of the big picture. I don't need to know every little detail.
The minutia.
Right.
Like, you don't need to know all of the stories. I would say you know 90% of the stories.
Probably.
I would say you know 90% because we were very upfront and honest about our pasts with each other when we started dating.
Right.
Right from the beginning. You knew, listen, this lady comes with baggage. She's good looking, but she comes with baggage.
Right. Everybody comes with baggage, me included. So,
That's true.
You know, that's
You do come with baggage. Okay. So how do you feel, though, about, like, what I'm doing today?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I think it's something that's very important. And I'm going to say again something I say all the time to you, but others, is I think you're shining a light into a very dark place. And I'm a huge supporter of anybody, but especially you, when you help free people from, in this case, kind of chains to a disease that is crippling. And so it's very hard for people to move forward without some of the things that you've gone through, and I think you've organized it in a way and put it forth in a way that can help a lot of people. So I'm hugely supportive of that endeavor for sure, and hopefully it'll emanate to their children and other people they know. So hopefully it'll spread.
I hope so too. And I know that you're a big supporter because at your 50th birthday party, someone came up to me and said, you know, I had a meeting with Brian and there was a couple other people in the room, and we talked more about your business than we did his. And he talked more about your business than we did his. And I thought, yeah, I get that a lot. I get strangers coming up to me that have spent time with you that know the details of what I do because you are such a walking advertisement and such a big fan.
Yeah, so I think that's the bottom line is if there is anybody I meet that I think can help you, I'm going to talk about your business. And my business is boring, so I'm going to talk about your business all the time for sure.
Yeah. And we call it a business, and I think that that's okay, but I don't view it so much as a business as more of like a mission, right? I mean, what's another word for it?
I call it a ministry.
Yeah, ministry, a mission, a community, a purpose, really.
Right.
Okay, so along those lines, because I don't want to go off that yet, Lorianne asked some good questions. She also wants to know, is your current husband grateful for you? Does he support and adore you? Also, how do you make him feel? Are you able to please him? How do you get to a place that you know that you are good enough for him? Aren't those good questions? Lorianne asked some amazing questions. So that's a lot. That's a lot of questions. So
Can I just take issue with one thing?
Yeah.
The word current in before husband.
You know what
I am the husband. There's no current. It's just the husband.
You mean like there's not going to be another one after you?
Right.
No, there's not going to be another one after you. I think she gets that from me. I think I say that and I find myself having to correct that.
I heard somebody once say their current wife, and I asked, were they planning on having another? So it just is, it's just a,
Right.
Maybe it's semantics.
No. I hear you. Okay. So are you grateful for me?
For sure. Absolutely. 100%. And I'm grateful for you in so many different ways, but, our relationship and just the love that, you bring to me and again, you're a huge blessing in my life. You challenge me in so many ways. And for people who are listening, if you think Michelle asks good questions of a lot of people that she interviews, or good questions imagine getting them on a daily basis. So she challenges me, but she challenges me to get better. And I think hopefully everybody feels the same way, but I definitely feel like I've become a better man, I've become a better husband, and as importantly, I've become a better father and friend to people because of how she challenges me to really step on it and improve every day.
Okay, thank you for saying that. But I think you were pretty darn close to perfect when I met you. So right back at you. Like, I think that's part of a good marriage, is the ability to refine one another, but also I think it's the willingness to be molded, to be refined. I mean, I could say the exact same thing for you. It's not like you were some broken guy that was, needed all this help. I mean, you were very self-sufficient. You were very healthy. You were very selfless. You were very honest and reliable, and you had all of the traits that I was looking for. But I think our marriage has just naturally, we've taken the best from each other. And when that's what happens when you have two healthy people, is you kind of are willing to grow together and learn from one another and improve. Do you feel that's fair?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So she asks, do you support and adore me? And because I always say everybody in our community deserves to be adored. I would say you are truly my greatest supporter. Your support is, oh my gosh, how have you supported this? First of all, you supported this community by funding it. I mean, I don't think anybody knows that, but when I came to you with this dream, you not only financially backed it with hundreds of thousands of dollars, but also said to me, how many hours would you say we've talked about? I mean, I used to come to you almost every day, multiple times a day when I first started this, and said, it's not working, or I don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job, or maybe I'm doubting myself and doubting, what I had to offer, or because it's expensive. It's expensive to put this, to create the programs. It's expensive to hire the people. It's a big endeavor, and you were, so patient with me and so willing to lend your wisdom and believed in me. I think that was part of it. I also think part of it was that you were like, Michelle, please get busy working and helping with other people, because I'm not your patient anymore. Did you feel a little bit like that? Was that kind of secretly your motive? Like, we can't talk about my childhood wounds anymore, Michelle. I'm good. You go find your people.
Well, as some people may know, you are naturally an achiever, and it is your greatest strength. And so when somebody's an achiever, and I'm different, I focus on ideas and strategies and things like that, and the two work really, really well together. But you're looking for a goal, and so you have a mountain to climb. And I think the thing for you was you knew this mountain was out there, you just didn't know how you wanted to climb it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we have talked for hours and hours, and I think way more time has gone in than money, for sure, in terms of this endeavor and what you've done. But it's an amazing accomplishment, and I'm incredibly proud of you, and I do adore you. And there are so many things that you do in my life that I love, and we have such an amazing family together. So yeah, I do adore you, and I'm very supportive of what you're doing here.
Yeah, you truly are. You are, without you, this would not have been possible. Hands down, no way in shape or form would we been able to build the community and the programs. And you were a massive, massive part, which actually answers Diane's question. So she says, what role, if any, does your husband have in love over addiction? So currently, you are a major player for the first, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, where we would talk every day. And then lately, thankfully to our marriage, I've hired more people. But we just had a meeting last week where kind of mentored our team and gave us some great ideas on ways we can help more people. So you still are kind of on the sidelines, and we call on you when we need your wisdom and your advice.
Yeah, that's really been my role all along, which is just simply to provide some insights and thoughts and help.
Because you build, what would you say you do? Okay, let me tell you what you do for a living.
We try to invest in and build businesses for a living.
Yes. So
which has some application to what you're doing here. But it's always really, really difficult to get something off the ground. And there's so many obstacles and so many pitfalls and so many ways that those things can come to a screeching halt. And I think what's amazing about this is you have overcome, and one of your greatest strengths and one of the things I love most about you is your persistence, because when you hear no, see no, run into something, etc., you figure out how to get through it, around it, over it, under it, whatever. And I think that's just a huge blessing to everybody who's able to come into contact with this.
Thank you for saying that. My persistence is also probably annoying sometimes when I'm persisting after you. You're like, no, Michelle, leave me alone. So and you can hear he's well trained because he's not saying anything. Silence, radio silence. So yeah.
No, long ago we stopped the midnight wake ups when we had to have a conversation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I did stop that because I actually you gave me, and this is the other way you've supported me and Love Over Addiction's community, is how many times and how many hours and afternoons, how many did you take the kids to let me work? I mean, I think for years, of course, I was working for free for many, 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 many years. And even then, after I paid myself, it was $3,000 a month or something. But I mean, I would work sometimes, I don't even know how many hours a week I was working. How many, and you would take the kids for the day, many Saturdays, many Sundays. I remember making the videos in the LOA program, and one of the videos you can hear if you listen closely, all of you guys are upstairs in the bedroom. You have 6 kids plus the dog, and trying to keep 6 kids in a room with 4 walls with a huge English Mastiff quiet for, it's a 5-minute video.
Right, or the trampoline.
Yeah.
Or something.
You jump on the trampoline with them in the backyard while I was in video, but I think in one of the videos you hear the squeaks of the trampoline in the background, and that's you sweating to death in the Florida sun out there with the kids, trying to keep them entertained while mommy works.
But I wouldn't want people to get the wrong impression, because I think you've done a good job balancing that. I mean, there are times when you're trying to finish a project, and as an achiever, it is all focused on the goal, and so you do put in the hours then, but then you take breaks where there's much more balance to the family, and you're driving all over creation, as I am, because our kids have to go here and there and everywhere, and you're constantly thinking about things with the family and everything else. So the amount of time you've invested in the kids, I think there's an incredibly healthy balance. But I wouldn't want people to get the wrong impression that every Saturday you're all about the business, because that certainly isn't true. But when there's a deadline, you're on it, and sometimes I need to figure out how many movies we can go see.
You know what, though? I thank you for saying that, and thank you for thinking of that. I do appreciate that. I think that's actually one of our greatest strengths. If I were to look at our relationship, I would say we are a good team together. We are I can look at you and go, I'm done, you're it. And then I know when you need when I'm it, like I need to step up to the plate and give you a break. And we kind of, and then I know when we're both working really hard to go, okay, we need a date night. And we've been very religious about our date nights. We have been really good. Once a week, every week we go out, or we order sushi and, have ice cream in bed and watch a movie.
But I think that's something that, if there were both men and women listening to this, I think the number one thing that one of the top qualities people need to look for is they need to figure out if somebody's willing to sacrifice. Because if they're not willing to sacrifice something that's important to them for their mate, then that's not a good match. Because there's going to come a time when there's going to be something important, and for example, it's really important to you, or it's really important to me, and the other person needs to lay down and say, I'm going to put aside what I'm doing and sacrifice. And so if they can't see that, then I think you always say no bueno, isn't that?
I do.
No bueno.
I've never said it on the podcast, I think, but
Okay,
I love that. You hate that when I say that. You don't hate it, but you're like, Michelle, don't say that again.
That's the only Spanish words you know. So.
It's true. Well, I grew up with French, so yeah. But I love that. Yeah, I think so. Give me an example. Like, what's an example of the last time you made a sacrifice for me, where you were like, I'm consciously making an effort to put my desires or wants or needs aside, and I'm going to serve my wife.
Going to Disney World.
That's hilarious. We were just there.
I
know. So wait, you're saying that you
went
that
to
was
Disney World on my birthday for you? Yes.
Okay, wait. Back that up.
I didn't not enjoy it though. I liked it. I
True.
But the level of love, you're at 11 and I might be at like an 8.5.
I don't know if you're an 8.5.
It's not torture, but I love it, but I don't love it nearly as much as you do.
I love it. I got us all sweatshirts, and you wore your sweatshirt.
I did. It was comfortable. It was a good sweatshirt.
It was a good sweatshirt. Yeah. Lauren, our daughter, designed the sweatshirts, but I made everybody wear matching sweatshirts. Which I don't know, might be a little creepy, but I thought it was really fun. But wait, can we back that up? Because 50th birthday, we also threw you a big party the night before.
That's true.
And
I skipped right over that.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
And also, I arranged for you and your buddies to all spend the day golfing, like 8 people or 6, whatever, like to go do golfing. So the Disney definitely was a little sneak in for me and the kids, but I think that's a great example.
We make little sacrifices all the time, and I don't remember exactly when, but my guess is sometime in the last few weeks, I did some extra driving for you because you had something to do, whether it be an interview or you had a Facebook Live thing or what have you. Certainly when you're doing your master classes, I think, I picked up some slack there with all the launch and everything else. And at the same time, whether it be for my birthday and all the effort you put in for that, and allowing us to go and play some golf, which admittedly I only play like 5 or 6 times a year, so just so everybody knows.
Yeah, that's true. You're very responsible with that.
But, there's a lot of back and forth, and it can't be a quid pro quo, right? This can't be a list where people keep a tally and figure out whether it's even or not, because that's just not a good relationship. But at the end of the day, I make a sacrifice because I love you, and there are times when I need something and you jump in and do the same.
You know what you've been doing for me lately, which I have not even acknowledged, but every time I see it, I'm like, oh, you've been putting my empty coffee mug under my coffee maker for me every morning. That's really sweet. Thank you for doing that.
Just getting you ready to get some caffeine.
Yeah, because I take thyroid medicine, so I have to wait. Otherwise, you used to bring me my coffee, but now I have to wait an hour before, because I take my meds right at the beginning. So you just put my cup there, and I noticed it this morning. I was like, that's very sweet. And it was my favorite mug, too. Okay, so let's talk, because I know some women are going to be really curious about how you feel about my ex-husband. And like I said, I think I've said this to somebody else. You don't talk badly about even people you don't particularly care for. You are one of the nicest, I would say, and I know you kind of don't like this, but if I were to put one word next to your name, it would be integrity. You have integrity to the core. So I know that I don't even need, like, I didn't even, like, full disclosure, say, hey, don't say anything bad about him, because you would never ever do that. It would not even be something that you would consider doing. So without getting too personal about him, because I always think it's important to protect his privacy.
Sure, and we want to be respectful
Yeah.
of him, absolutely.
Yeah. But I do think it's a fascinating perspective from the current husband.
Right. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. How he feels about coming in. Like, how did you feel about marrying somebody that has 3 children with somebody who, is currently drinking and has a history of drug use? I mean, there's some sticky situations. Feel free to talk about them, because I probably have, where we've had to navigate through that together.
Well, I guess it's one of those things where when I got divorced, I knew that if I was going to marry somebody that I'd want to be with, that they were probably going to be a mom, and therefore they were going to have kids. And so that was something I just, right from the get-go, was part of my mindset, that if I was marrying somebody that didn't have kids, not that they wouldn't be a great person or anything, but since I was bringing kids into the equation, that might not work great. Somebody without kids might not understand all the, challenges and time constraints and need to be there for them and everything else. And so I just had that mindset from the outset. I didn't necessarily expect that there would be the ex-husband who had challenges with drug and alcohol use. But you were very upfront about that from the beginning. And so I think we got our, we talked through that, and we talked through the situation. You had also moved, and so the moving had some other challenges, including when he could see them and how that was going to go down. And obviously over the course of, a lot of years, that's definitely evolved in terms of the interrelationship between me and him, and you and him, and him and the kids. So I don't know, there was a bunch of other questions. So.
No, it's okay. But how would you mind going into how it evolved? What has happened? So when you first met me, you saw my 3 kids. What were some of your fears about getting involved when I was very through the front door with you and saying, look, this is what's going on. I'm a package deal here, and this is part of the package. Are you sure?
In a way, I was wondering how, because I thought you were a great catch, frankly.
Thank you.
How was it to be that I was so lucky?
Oh, I love that.
So
very sweet.
In a way, that was a very clear explanation. Because,
oh, right. I never thought about that. So basically you're saying why is she available?
Right.
Okay.
What happened? Right? What happened?
Yeah.
And I think anybody naturally has that question, right?
Is she cray-cray?
Well, what are the circumstances, right? So, but I remember when we first started dating, we had long conversations well into the night. And I remember, I think, talking long distance with you and probably going to bed at 3 or 3:30 in the morning. And so we had lots of conversations about everything. And if nobody has figured this out, you are very much through the front door about everything. So there was no, on your part, no hiding anything about his situation and what that meant, or frankly, why you decided you had to do something. And frankly, I admired you for that, because you have a huge protective instinct as a mom, and You were doing that. Right there when I mentioned earlier about sacrificing, that was a sacrifice where you said, for my children, I'm going to sacrifice my current situation and take a risk because I have to do it. And I'm not going to worry about me, I'm going to worry about them and them remaining in the situation. And I think he would own up to the fact that it was not a healthy situation for them because of his challenges.
Yeah, well, you think he would because he has.
Well, right. I know he would, and he has for sure.
Yeah. Has he said? You've talked to him, and I think when you talk to him over the years, he has personally said to you what?
I think he said to me that he's appreciated me stepping into a role that was difficult for him to play in their lives.
Yeah. Now, that is amazing. Like, that is, first of all, very rare, but it not only speaks to who you are, because you are such a fair, kind human being, and he could sense that from the, times we spent together. But also, it speaks volumes to him, I think, as well, to be the type of human being that says thank you, for doing this, and for admitting that he is.
Well, I appreciate the fact that he didn't just hate me.
Yeah.
Right, because just totally, again, through the front door, one of my greatest fears about my own children in my divorce was some guy on the other side and how he would treat them, and the fact that they would be interacting with somebody that would be playing a role that I wanted to play. And so I very much tried to put myself into his shoes, and I don't know if I've done a great job at it. I've tried to, but just thinking from his perspective that I would want to honor them and treat them well, and also not come between him and them, if that makes sense.
It makes such sense. And do you feel like you've ever crossed a line? Because I don't feel like you have. I feel like you've done a great job. For example, we travel back to the state that he resides in. We used to, until he moved across the country recently, but back to the state, we would load up all 6 children in the car, including yours, and go visit him and his family and spend the holidays with everyone together, which I think not only was a great lesson for like all of us, but the kids particularly. Like, that's huge. So
well, I think
how did that feel? Like, were you ever like, this is weird? Or were you like, what made you do that? Because I didn't twist your arm doing that. That was, you were like fully, ready and able and willing. Like, it wasn't a big ask from me. I don't even remember us having that conversation with you. So how did you feel?
Well, I definitely felt it was awkward for sure.
Yeah.
I think the thing about all those interactions were it got a lot less awkward really quickly, and he deserves part of the credit for that, for sure. It wasn't 2 guys bowing up and big egos and trying to out macho one another or whatever.
What is big egos?
Big egos?
Oh, I thought you said big egos.
No.
I was like, is
egos.
that code? Guy code? Okay, yeah. Big egos. Right. Okay, yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of guys who walk around with chips on their shoulder, and so I think man to man we shook hands, and we kind of appreciated the different roles that each one had, and there was sort of a good outset mutual respect there, especially given the circumstances. And frankly, he also had a girlfriend pretty quickly, as I recall, and they also had some children, both hers, and then they had a couple children together, and so that changed the dynamic too, because I think he had sort of kids on both sides that he needed to be concerned about. So there again, I think was scenario where when we met, he had a lot going on. And so I think it was almost I don't want to say relief, but I think he just had an appreciation that I was not out there to make any less of him, and then I was out there just to be helpful to his kids.
Well, you were helpful to his kids.
Who are now my kids too, so.
You are. So, okay, I want to get there, but not quite. Because when you say his kids, I didn't think you were referring to our 3 kids that I had that are his biological kids.
Well, we're talking about
We're talking about.
I
thought you were talking
here,
about.
And so there was a time when that was the case, right? And I'm going all the
No,
way
no,
back
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to head into the story where I remember we were at his sister's house, and I've shared this story before because I think it was like just one of those pivotal moments in your life where you go, how did I get here? And this is amazing. But like, we were at his sister's, and you have a great relationship, and so do I, with his sisters and his family, and we go visit them. But we were at Thanksgiving in their house, and it was his sister, her husband, her kids, and then us and our 6 kids, and then him, his girlfriend, and then their kids, plus her kids from her ex-husband. So there's a whole lot of kids and a whole lot of blending and a whole lot of like past, present, future, whatever.
Life is kind of messy.
It is, but I remember standing in the kitchen. It was so warm. It was so inviting. His parents were there too. And I looked over. I was sitting at the kitchen counter, and I look over, and you're talking and laughing with his parents and his brother-in-law while holding his baby with his girlfriend on your hip and like rocking her. And I just remember looking around and going, on one level, someone could call this so dysfunctional,
right.
But on such a deep core level, this is amazing. Like, this is so beautiful and wonderful about brokenness and how people can overcome brokenness. And if they are loving human beings, that nothing is impossible, and that if we're all, I don't know, it just was such a profound moment for me. And
I don't even know how the baby ended up in my arms, but she was adorable.
She is adorable.
Yeah.
That baby, I would put that baby and put her in my pocket and take her home with me.
Right.
I mean, I think I even offered to do that. And she didn't take me up on it. And
right.
I love that. They are no longer together, but I did very much love his girlfriend, which I think also helped the scenario as well. And I actually think that she was his girlfriend before I was not his wife, or I was still with him.
Well, you never know.
Never know, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm just trying to think about what other people would be really curious about asking you. Did any questions pop out to you where you kind of was like, I want to make sure I answer that?
Well, look, I think it's, again, as people enter into new relationships, right? If they're divorced and they're dating, etc. I think it worked really well. I think we were incredibly blessed. I know we prayed all the time about our kids and the relationships and everything else. But I don't want to make it out like it's going to be easy, because you don't know, right? I mean, drugs and alcohol, play a part in it. And, I think fortunately for us, I think in every situation, there was sobriety when we were having those interactions.
Yeah.
And that was a huge plus. So people may be in situations where that isn't the case. And so I don't want to come across that you have to anticipate. I think it's really important. I think you did a good job of this, creating the right kind of setup. And you had an ear for whether he was in a good space or not. And I think that's really important for people to work on, is they know their ex, and they know whether they're in a good space or not a good space. And a bad space probably is not the right time to introduce or have an interaction with, frankly, anybody, but certainly bringing kids into the mix or, a new relationship or what have you. So, I mean, it's just something to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Okay. I also really want to, I mentioned it before, and thank you for talking about that, because we definitely want to, let's be real, because I love that. There were some very dramatic times.
Yes.
I mean, and out of respect for him, we're not going to go into too much great detail, but there were moments where you and I were, driving till, 2 a.m,
Right.
to across the state lines to pick up these kids because
Of a situation.
of the, situation that he put them in. And, authorities were called and bad things were occurring. So by no means, is this an easy ride. You need your partner to be willing and able to say, okay, I'm with you.
Right.
We're doing this together. And that kind of segues into my next point, which is...
And that's part of the sacrifice. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, they have to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
And likewise, you're willing to jump in with them when they have issues. Because...
Who's they and who's that? What are you talking about?
Well, look, I mean, the reality is most people come to new relationships, if they're 30 or older, they might have some prior relationship, they might have kids, etc. It's not all one-sided. So just because somebody comes on one side with an ex who's an alcoholic or drug abuser or what have you, the other person may come with somebody as well. And so there's going to be conflict on both sides.
Got it.
You're blending families,
Got it.
blending situations. It's, again, there's got to be a mutual sacrifice and an understanding that I'll be there for you and you're going to be there for me. And I think, that's one of the things that was that's a core part of our relationship.
I agree. So let's talk about one of the best things, I think, is the adoption.
Yeah.
You've adopted my 3 kids. Just to be fair, for the sake of clarity, we are saying yours, mine, but we in real life do not do that.
Right.
I was very adamant when we got together saying they are ours.
We're a family.
We are a family. We do not do steps. We do not do halves. We are brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, and we are together. And we position that to other people as well as to them. That's very important to me, to set an even playing field. So tell me about the adoption. How was that for you? I think somebody asked that about in this question, but how did you come to adopt my kiddos?
Well, first of all, you made a really gutsy decision to go to him and ask him, and that was a discussion between the two of you. And I may have been on my knees praying at the time, but you are one of the most courageous people I know. And you're courageous for doing this. You were courageous in that moment, and in so many other moments. And so, without that, there might not have been an opportunity. But you and I had both talked about it. I certainly wanted to do that. I wanted to do it for them. And
can I interrupt you really quickly before
Sure.
you move on? That thank you for that. First of all, it did not go down well the first couple times I asked.
that's true.
Let's just air that out. Not only with him, but with other family members, asking someone to sign away their kids is not easy. And, I got shut down,
Several times. Right. And I had a conversation, I know, with him as well. I remember from a parking lot one night, and talking about that. And I think it's something where, definitely it was a miracle. Let's just be real about it.
Why? Well, it's common. I mean, why did you...
It's common, but I mean, it's one of those things where the degree to which he was accepting about it and that even when we got the initial papers signed where he was willing to do it, we went to church together that day, and he shook my hand and said thank you. I mean, that was a big move on his part, right, to do that. And so
we went to the Waffle House together.
We did go to the Waffle House
after church.
Yes,
we went to the Waffle House, and
they say if you remove the W, it's the Awful House.
I love their waffles.
Yes,
and their hash browns, but
great part of a diet.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Okay, so he did say thank you,
yes,
and it was a really healing moment when he came around in the car and we were getting ready. We had gone to church together. We had gone to the Waffle House together. He had just signed the paperwork over to basically relinquish all rights for his children and sign them over to another man. And I remember it being such a battle to get him. I mean, I literally I tried forcefulness, I tried guilt tripping, I tried so many tactics until finally I just remember, and it's a beautiful long story. It's too long for this podcast, but I remember really just finally ending up, which was the same place I ended up when I was asking him for a divorce and to sign the divorce papers, which was just total vulnerability and kindness. Literally appealing to no tricks, no tactics, just literally looking him in the eye and saying, please, because these kids deserve this. So why did you feel
they deserved it, and the other issue was, frankly, God forbid something happened to you. He was not in a space to take the kids back. And so we certainly had an interest to say, if something happened to you, and nothing has, thank God, but if it did, what was going to happen? And it was going to separate our family, and where were the kids going to go, and how is that all going to play out? That would have been a horrible situation. And so it was really important to us to keep fighting for that, because we knew that it was going to be the best thing for the kids in the long run. And from my perspective, I love them and they're mine, and I never want to come between them having a relationship with him sometime in the future. Hopefully they can. And I know they talk from time to time to the extent he wants to be involved, and we make that happen. Again, from my perspective, it was one of the greatest moments in my life, and I, to this day, remember the adoption papers, and it just brought tears to my eyes when I saw that they are my own kids, as if they're part of my blood, and that sealed it right there. And we walked out of the courthouse. We were a family. And then somehow we ended up in a chase after a dog and spent the next hour chasing down a dog.
That's true.
It was really quite crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy day, but it was a good morning. I remember that. I was surprised at how official it was. I had no idea. I mean, it's the same process if you adopt a child, from two parents that are not biological, as it is to adopt a child if it was just you. So we had to go to
the
courthouse, and we had to go to a courtroom, and the kids had to agree. Why do you think, what was your motivation or intention for wanting to adopt them?
My motivation was it's part of who I am to be a dad. And I had established a relationship with them, and I'm your husband, and they didn't have a dad. He was absent. And as much as he may have tried to be a father in those moments when he would have an interaction with him, he was really in no position, kind of mentally or with the disease, to really provide that to them. And to me, just growing up, I just could imagine how I don't know what the right word is, really sad that would be to grow up and feel like you have no real dad. You've got this sort of guy in your life that's your stepdad, and he's trying to fill in and you're always wondering what's out there. And so it really changed their perspective because I became the real dad. And our relationship has grown and grown and grown. And it's not like it immediately happens when you have a child who is born to you and you immediately start out and they're yours and, you're all in. You have to be all in, but you have to commit to that each and every day. And across time, it becomes that. Mm-hmm. Where it's real and it's as if you were there in the delivery room, even mm-hmm. though I wasn't. And I just, it would be tragic for them if because I think they'd always be wondering. And now instead, I think, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think their perspective is their dad's here. And there's this other guy out there that they still love. And to the extent possible, they still want to have a relationship with. But it's completely changed their frame of mind, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I think you're right. And I think they view you as their real dad. And I don't think it's I don't even think they think of it right now as an issue. Like, they're like, of course, they call you dad. Their last names are, Anderson. And they asked to be called Andersons at school before they were even adopted.
Right. That was funny. I loved that. And,
that was a good compliment.
Right.
When we had to go to their teacher and say, okay, listen, can you please? And they knew, all of our teachers knew the situation and they were more than supportive. So yeah, I think that, some of them sometimes are even closer to you than they are to me at certain, on certain topics and subjects. They go to you for certain discussions. So it's really worked out well.
Well, and our oldest one has definitely come around. That was definitely a little more challenging early on because he had to build more trust with me because he was older. Yeah. And so I'm just thinking that other people might have situations where our kids came together when they were much younger. Yeah. But people might be trying to bring together families with teenagers and whatnot. And I think you have to give them a lot of space. And I think it just takes time and
to prove that you're not going to hurt them and abandon them. Right. And that you're safe.
There's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of skepticism. Yeah. Are you genuine? Yeah. Are you authentic? Yeah. Do you care? And the only way you can prove that, you can say that, but the only way you can prove it over time is by being there and being present and showing those qualities. And in the long run, that'll come around, right? That yeah, it's the result of something, but it can never happen right away.
So. Now they 100% trust you entirely. It's not even a thing. Yeah. So, but it's taken a while to get there. You're right. It takes time. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I don't know if this is going to be helpful to people or if people are tuning out now. Right. I don't know. I'm just wondering if I was somebody, would I want to know anything else, or would I be like, okay, guys, wrap it up?
Well, and
I think what you're saying is beautiful, and I think what you're saying is super helpful. I didn't mean that to be discouraging. I just didn't want us to be self-indulgent, you know what I mean? And talking about us, over too much. Sometimes I wonder about that.
I look at it and say it would be a shame if people didn't take the next step because they were fearful about it.
You mean next step meaning what?
Meaning getting into a relationship. And it was not easy, and there were a lot of hard times, but there were a lot of beautiful times and great times, and it was crazy, and there was chaos. Leaving? I'm not talking about leaving. I'm talking about if they made the decision to leave, and they're sitting in between. Got it. And they're wondering.
Should they start to date again?
Should I start to date? And what happens when I get committed to somebody? And how is that going to go down? Yeah. And I've got kids, or I don't have kids, right? Right. And what does that look like? Or the other person has kids. Right. And how does that play out? So I'm just saying that it would be a shame if they didn't go for it, because I think what this shows and what we bring together is something where it has been phenomenal, and it's been the best thing for everybody. And so I just wouldn't want. I mean, there's a lot of craziness and there's a lot of chaos and everything else, but
Oh my gosh,
those are moments in time.
those chaos and craziness is a daily thing.
Well,
I mean,
depends,
around with the amount of kids we have.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, we're not like calm and collected. I'm surprised our neighbors haven't called, some sort of agency to check on us.
Yeah.
Because we're so loud over here.
Right.
But we have weathered a lot of storms together, and I think that's brought us closer together and given us layers to our relationships, where sometimes we're going to a party and we're in a room and I look across at you and I can't help but like compare us sometimes to other couples that are at the party, and I think we've gone to war together. We've been through war. We're battered, we're bruised, we're scarred from our first marriages, and I think that creates a level of appreciation that might not be there with people who have been married and stayed married forever. Not that I'm suggesting everybody gets divorced, but you know what I mean. Like, I know for me, I would have never been able to appreciate you if I had not been married to my first husband.
Right.
I would have never, ever appreciated what we had. I might have even thought, and I hope this does not offend you, but like, I might have even thought like, oh, this is boring. Like, where's the drama?
Right.
Like, where's the problems to solve?
Right.
And like, because safe and steady and integrity can sometimes equate to boring.
Right.
There's not tons of conflict all the time, but that's what is healthy. And I think it's just naturally, like, I would never have appreciated that had I not gone through the dysfunction and the drama and the chaos to go, oh my Lord, I never want to have this again. Right. This is just too much.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, and we spend a lot of time, and I think one of the things that you did phenomenal that you did early on is you really helped prepare us. I probably had fallen in love and was so excited to go get married and put our families together and everything else. And so I was always the one who was, I don't want to say rushing to it, but certainly pushing and wanting to and excited about it and whatnot. And I think you were the one saying, yeah, we need to do that, but first we need to make sure that we're fully prepared. And so we really, that was, credit to you. And there was a lot of investment in, understanding what sort of fears we have and the doubts versus love and trust and
that's hilarious.
All that.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do.
For those of you listening, he's referring to the fact that I dragged him to therapy for many, many hours. That whole love and trust is what our marriage counselor, that's marriage counselor language for, and she had like this cabin in the woods that was sort of a couple's retreat. And I, for many occasions and many weekends, dragged him there, and he loves the woods. I am learning to appreciate the woods. But like, I think he thought we were going to go hiking and like
fresh air. We're in the mountains,
And no, it was like 10 hours of intense one-on-one therapy in a small cabin.
And I burned up all my problems in the campfire.
Yeah, you did. We did a lot of exercises. Yeah. But she was really imperative.
She was great.
In fact,
she was great.
She was so much a part of our relationship and building it. She was our minister. She married us.
Yes, she did.
We asked her to marry us, even though she wasn't ordained, and she got her certificate and got ordained because she was such an integral part of helping us walk through the trust issues that come and the how do I behave in a healthy manner and a healthy relationship, because all I've ever known is to live in panic and fear and doubt and anxiety, and I don't know how to operate in this. And I'm fine with giving, but how do I not give to the point where I'm exhausting myself and I'm constantly trying to please him. And this is one thing I want to talk about, and then I promise we'll go, because this is probably a really long podcast. One of the things that I think you have been imperative, like so incredible for me and my growth as a woman. You said, earlier, I made you become a better man. You have helped, it's vice versa. And the way you helped me become a better woman is because I think there was still, even though I had done, God only knows how many, years and years of work before I met you on myself, there's still some of those things that you can't quite heal until you get into a relationship with somebody else. Like, you don't realize that there are issues that are laying below the surface until you start dating somebody else.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it's like they pop up and you're like, okay, for example, when you would come home late from meetings,
right.
and I love you, but you are not the best communicator at saying, I'm running late.
Right.
So
that's true.
It's so based on my past, when you would come home late from work, I would automatically go into panic mode, just out of a natural habit,
right.
without even recognizing, and go,
because am I at a bar?
Is he cheating on me? Right. Is he at a bar? Is he really where he says he is? Even though you have absolutely zero history of drinking or drugs issues at all. Like, it's not even a question, and I implicitly trust you. It was just all of a sudden, so by the time you got home, I was in a frenzy, a worked up frenzy, beside myself, because I had thought that, but that's not something you can really heal unless you're in another relationship with somebody. And but here's my point, is saying, that's when, Carol, my therapist, came into play. But also that over the years, I now absolutely have become an incredibly independent woman.
Right, for sure.
And any codependency traits, I think, have completely I'm not I don't struggle with that anymore. Yeah. I think I don't look to you for any validation. Right. Like, someone asked in this question, she said, how do you get to a place that you are good enough for him? And I can say, I knew I was good enough for you. Like, I already had that self-confidence. I wasn't looking for you to validate me and make me feel special or good. That was part of the healing, was going and saying, I'm worthy. I make a great wife.
Right.
I bring some good stuff to the table here. I'm far from perfect, but I'm really proud of what I have to offer. And I think that coming to the table with that kind of attitude, but then in addition to being with a healthy, steady man who makes consistently good choices, has helped me heal and become even more independent, so that it is incredibly nice to do life with you.
Right.
But I am in no way whatsoever dependent on you to do life with. Does that make sense? Is that weird?
It does. Well, I think
it's a gift to do it with you.
Right. I mean,
I don't.
I mean, this might sound a little cheesy, and I apologize, but we fit really well together, and there are parts of me and parts of you that, when we blend it, make us as one, very strong. Whereas separate, we're not.
Yes.
And so,
true.
On the one hand, we're not dependent upon each other, that we are basket cases if I'm late or whatever the situation may be.
Or you don't tell me every day of every week, you're not because your love language is not verbal.
Right.
So, and my love language is verbal. So if you're not telling me every 5 seconds how beautiful I am, because that's not what even though you think I'm beautiful.
I think that, I just don't say that.
Right.
Which, I need
but
to
I'm
say
not.
More,
I'm not dependent. I already feel beautiful.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's very nice when you recognize that.
But so often, what do you tease me about when you tell me you're like, you look so beautiful? What do I normally say?
Yeah, I know.
I do.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, I know.
Yeah. So then I just move on.
I don't mean that to be conceited.
No.
But look, I put effort into my looks. Right. Usually when you compliment
You're
me.
like, yeah, right, I do. I look good. Like, okay.
Yeah. I don't think that's conceited. I think that's so.
Well, you do look good.
I wouldn't do that.
You might as well own it, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. But no, it's so there's like like the word is interdependence, and that's where the cheesy word comes in, right? But we are not dependent upon one another, but we do life really well together because we complement each other and we're there for each other, and we can pull all this together, right? Because if people are too independent, then why are you together? What's the point, right?
Are you saying like you're like college roommates?
Yeah.
Like your best friends.
Right. If you're independent.
Or
you might not have even been friends. You're just, acquaintances, right? Because you're totally independent of one another.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a...
Intimacy
and a reason that, and I think our reasons are, and you can probably tell this from the podcast, is that there are so many things that you compliment me and vice versa. And so your persistence when I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to keep going. But at the same time, I might say, but hey, I have a different idea. What if we do that? And then the combination of it, gets us to where we need to get to.
And then I you know what it is? We take turns being a leader.
Right.
I just figured that out. That's what it is. And we know when to let the other person lead most of the time.
Yeah.
We're not fighting to be both leaders. We pass the baton.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love you. Thank you for being willing to talk.
I love you too.
Thank you for being willing to share on this. And I hope people found it helpful and not too boring. Do you feel like we run the risk of being boring a little?
We do. And
do we sound like old people?
I just don't want to come across like we're too perfect.
Totally.
I think we have a great relationship. I think the thing that I love about it is that it's gotten so much. I mean, it grows every single year, and we both did bring a bunch of baggage in that we had to work through.
Totally.
But we were committed and we were sacrificial and we worked at it. And you're really hot and sexy, and
oh my
super
God.
Courageous.
That's so
okay. Was that was cheesy?
I
am
am not going to say I know to that.
Are you going to delete that? Okay.
I would not. I don't think I'm hot and sexy ever, but
you
I'm
are.
wearing sneakers. But
you were a great catch.
Thank you for saying it. I feel the same way. It's mutual.
Let's be honest with each other. Loving and living with somebody who drinks too much or suffers from addiction can be really painful. And how do some of us cope with pain? We get angry. So when we read a popular self-help book or listen to a woman who hosts a certain podcast about addiction, specifically a blonde-haired, blue-eyed podcast host who has a bundle of kids, and this host tells us the wise advice to try and replace the anger we're feeling with our partners for compassion, you might be left wondering, well, that sounds great, but how the heck do I start to feel compassion when all I really want to do is lecture, nag, or plant my head in a very large pillow and scream? If you've ever felt angry at your loved one and you would like to keep your pillows and dignity intact, I have some great news for you. We've created a simple, easy fill-in-the-blank guide sheet. Just print it, fill it out, and your anger won't disappear, but it will turn into compassion a whole lot faster. And the even better news, it's completely free. Our little gift made with love just for you. Go to loveoverdiction.com/125 to get your free download. Okay,
So for those of you 5 people that are still listening and made it through that entire podcast, I commend you. I respect you for your lack of ADD, and I would love it. Again, you guys, please let us know how you feel about this Ask Me Anything series. If I didn't get to any questions, if you have a question for me, or for if you're just curious, ask me. Please, please do. The Women in the Secret Facebook group came up with all these fantastic questions, but I really want to hear from you guys. What are you curious about? It doesn't have to be about addiction at all. And then please email us at info@loveoveraddiction.com. And also, one more favor, would you mind leaving us a review? I would love a 5-star review. That would be terrific, because that's the way that people get aware of our community, and find help, and find that there are other women in the world that are struggling just like they are. And that's the whole point of doing this, is to unite women from all over the globe together who are struggling and suffering. So those reviews really genuinely help, since we don't do a ton of marketing. Okay, thank you very much, guys. And next week, we will be back to regular schedule programming. I can't wait to read all of your emails.